Okay. Good afternoon. This is the Board of Standards and Appeals public hearing for December 6, 2016. The zoning calendar, new cases, item number 1, 17215 BZ, 14645 22nd Avenue, Queens.
Hello, Eric. All collated, not that bad. There's probably some extras in there too. Hello, Eric Palatnik. So we attended your review session, and I had the privilege of sitting here earlier listening to your session, and I heard all this talk about statistics and data.
Oh.
And I know you've been talking about data for a while, so we gave you some maps as a part of the application. We've created some additional ones as we've been working at the community board level, and then we created some more last night when we heard your board's comments. So instead of you fumbling through and me fumbling through all of our submissions, I put everything in one package. Some of the maps and attachments I just gave to you have already, some you don't, and I figured it would just be easier if you had everything in one place, and we'll walk through as each one becomes appropriate to discuss. We'll discuss it, and we could discuss more. I'm sure your board is aware that this application is for a two-family home in the Whitestone section of Queens, where two-family homes are permitted. We're asking you for the permission to reduce the required side yard on the 22nd Avenue Street side of the property from what would be a required 10-foot side yard to request a proposed 7-foot side yard. And we're also asking you for the ability to have a two-family with less than the required size. 925 square feet is the minimum required dwelling unit size. For a dwelling unit, we're asking for that to be 900 square feet. And we're asking for the total floor area to be 1,800 square feet, where I think 1,529 square feet is permitted. So the three variances that we're requesting of the board are to have a dwelling unit smaller than it's allowed to be, a slightly larger floor area, and a slightly smaller front yard. We did appear at the community board, as I've referenced earlier. They're a tough sell. I could not get them to go along with me, despite my best efforts. But I guess I'm a better attorney than I thought I was, because I met with State Senator Tony Avella last Thursday with the client who's here today, and he gave us his support of the application verbally. He did not yet issue a letter. I don't know if he plans on issuing a letter, but he was specific in telling us that we can make that representation here today. And I would never do that, make that representation on behalf of somebody as outspoken and verbose as State Senator Tony Avella, if it wasn't told to me, and I'll try and get something in writing as well. So now that you've got a little bit of the history and how we got to be here, the board asked a couple of questions at the review session, and I'll go through them point by point. One is there were some inconsistencies, I guess, in our writings about what's a side yard, what's a rear yard, and we'll correct that, and we'll correct the square footages for the dwelling units if that was incorrect anywhere. The numbers are what I just described to the board. You did ask for more regulations for interiors on interior lots, so that would probably be a good place to start the discussion, just so you have a framework of what we're doing here. The requirement in this zoning district is to have a side yard, to have two side yards, either a minimum of 5 feet each or no less than 8 feet. The no less than 8 feet is really telling, because the no less than 8 feet would be, for an example, of the house next to us, lot 43, or the house two over from us on lot 43 on 22nd Avenue, on 147th Street, excuse me, where it's a semi-detached home, and it's got an 8-foot side yard where it's attached, which functions as a driveway. And that's the home that's, to reference on any of the maps that you have, is on 147th Street. We're on 147th and 22nd Avenue, and that's the home two in from us. You could see that.
Wait a minute, so you're looking at it like the building width diagram, and you're...
Right, correct. You're looking at the building width diagram, and that's just that's not what the diagram was created for, but I'm just showing you that.
Which home are you looking at?
I'm looking at lot 43, which is two above us on 147th. So you can see that lot there is on a 25-foot wide lot like ours, and you could see there that the home is 17 feet wide, and they have a side yard there that functions as a driveway. It's 8 feet. That's the example.
But these are attached houses?
These are attached homes. Well, that one happens to be semi-detached, but the remainder of them are attached. that's what you'd be required to have. So for the homes that are allowed to be semi-detached, where there's a home abutting the side lot line, for those homes on a 25-foot wide lot, they achieve a 17-foot wide home, which is really the essence of what we're trying to do here. We're asking you for an 18-foot wide home. But the essence of what we're asking for the width of the home goes to the fact that, yes, people live in 15-foot wide homes. As a matter of fact, down that very same map, you'll see a series of homes in the lower left corner that are all on lots that are 15 feet wide, where the homes themselves are 15 feet wide. The key difference being there, those homes were built in the late 50s, and they are all on 15-foot wide lots. So when they were built to the exact width of the property. And each of those homes is ranges in size from about 1,100 square feet to 1,200 square feet in size, and they're one dwelling units. But aside from those homes, in the lower left, which I really think are an anomaly considering they appear to have been built by one developer on very narrow lots. The remainder of the area, and as you look at this map that we were just talking about, you will not find any other homes that are 15 feet in width. Some are 16 feet, a lot are 17 feet, a lot are 18 feet, God bless you, 21 feet, 19 feet, 23 feet. So you start running, you see the gambit of them. And primarily along 147th Street, where you're presented with a series of 25-foot wide interior lots, you could see that home after home after home after home is 17 feet, 17 feet, 1, 16, 18, 17. So you see the overwhelming majority of every home is 17, 18 feet wide on the 25-foot wide lots. Why is that? Because realistically, you can't fit a comfortable bedroom in a 15-foot wide home. You can't fit a comfortable kitchen. That extra 2 feet is the difference between the legroom, the kicking out a little bit. I lived in a railroad apartment. It was 15 feet wide. It was fun. It was nice. You had to walk through the bedroom to get to the next bedroom. It was cramped. But to have the ability to have the nightstand next to your bed, to have a little bit more functional space that you could put another person at a dining room table, that you could have one more seat in the living room when your mother-in-law comes over, you put her on the side. All of those things, that's the essence of what we're here for. And what we're asking you for is something that's not uncommon around us. And of course, you're in Whitestone. You're not in the heart of Manhattan, where people are used to living cramped upon each other. The climate in Whitestone, as I'm sure you're very familiar with, is one in which people go to sort of escape the city. It's like the quasi-burbs. It's the kind of place people go to when they're looking for a home with a little bit more space. They head out to Eastern Queens. This is the neighborhoods they go to. They head to Southern Brooklyn or Eastern Queens. So what we're asking for as far as the lot width, one of your questions at yesterday's review session was show us other homes of similar width. And that's what, this is one of the diagrams we've created that we're trying to show you that. Another comment from your board yesterday, and this is one where it gets all colorful, I'm on the colorful map now, was one in which you asked us to show you that there are other two-family homes. Now, of course, we're entitled to have a two-family in the underlying district. We're not asking for a use variance to have a two-family, but you can't get a two-family in all the floor area constraints that we have. Between the floor area and the minimum dwelling unit size, that's our issue with that. The zoning resolution, you look at the district, you say, can you have 1 or 2 families? It says, yes, you can have whatever, either. So what we tried to create for you here, what we did create for you is something that very tellingly shows you the spread between single-family and two-family homes in the area. And it's clearly showing it's pretty much a 50-50 split between them all. Also, all the homes on, not all the homes, but a decent amount on block 4639 are new construction. Mr. Savino is very familiar with the area. He's here. He could speak to that a little bit more if you want. So that just goes to show you even more that people are looking for two families. That's the market there. That's what's being constructed now. That's not what was constructed 50 years ago, so it's constructed today. Yes, you don't have to raise your hand. You can interrupt me. You're a commissioner.
I'm looking at the map and I'm seeing that, yes, you do have a mixture, but if you're looking at lots that are as small as the subject lot, it tends to be that they're one family and not two family. Two-family houses, you do have some on narrower lots, but the bulk of the two families seem to be on much wider lots and larger lots.
Maybe.
So how do you get around that?
Well, I don't think that's exactly true, because if you look right across the street, you have lot 12, it's a two-family, it's the same width as us. If you look on the next block down,
Right, but
it's a two-family. So the 25-foot wide lots do have two families on them.
Right, but I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4.
But
You're making
most-
me actually count 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Yeah, no, there are 25, there's a bunch that are also,
18, 19. There are about 20, 22 of those lots are wider.
right, but,
And they're about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
but, going to your point, you don't have to count them all, I'll count them all off for you, you don't
Yeah.
have to do the math, I understand what you're saying. But if you look at, just going by that, if you go to the interior properties, they're allowed to be wider. So you get more of usable, functional living space within the home that's functional usable, not just counting square footage. Counting square footage is great, but if it's in the wrong place, it's not really of much use to a homeowner, you know? If you have little kids that need space on that floor to do their homework while you're cooking dinner, if it's great if it's in the building, but ideally you'd like to have the kid at the kitchen table while you're cooking dinner, or if I'm cooking dinner, whoever may be doing the homework or cooking dinner. And as you look to the beginning, the mid-block of 147th Street, which is really a good example because all of those one units, starting at lot 42, going to lot 34, are all full-width properties. They're built 25 feet wide. So it just, I think that goes to strengthen what we're saying, which is the issue we're confronting is,
I'm sorry.
yes?
The ones? My microphone is not on. The ones that are along 147th Street, you're saying?
Right.
But those are built, you said they're 25 foot wide?
Yeah, those are a series of 25-foot wide lots.
ones
Not-
across the
okay,
street,
okay,
you mean.
Okay. But those are one family.
And they're all one family.
They're all one family.
They're one family, but they're built wider.
Right, but part of
That's
what's-
my point. So the hardship, the difficulty we're confronting here, the essence of the application that we're having is this, the property in the house with the yards and the square footage is in this awkward, you know, growth spurt phase, you know, to make an analogy. It's a little too small, it's too small for a one family, for a modern day one family. There's not much of a marketplace out there for people to spend a lot of money on a single family home that's 1,500 square feet. I mean, people will live in it, but again, where you are in Whitestone, Queens, where people are coming for space, where the property values are very high and costs of land are very high in Whitestone, it's a very desirable neighborhood. It's not the place where people are coming for a home for a 1,500 square foot, single-family home. What they're looking for in a single-family home is a 2,000, or a little bit bigger home. So it's a little bit under what you're really looking for a single family, and it's too small the way it is for two families. It doesn't meet the code requirement. So the two-family for a building of this size is really the sweet spot. That's the usable, where the land value and constructing it all makes sense. If I have a young family and I have two children, and I'm looking for a home in Whitestone, you're not rushing to Whitestone to buy a small 1,500 square foot home.
You
You're
just
trying to get a little bit more.
It seems to me like you're kind of merging two arguments. One of them is saying that you can't get the proper layout for a one-family home with the yards, which I can actually, I might be able to be persuaded, but then you're also on top of that merging in an argument that you can't get the layout for a two-family home without the extra FAR.
We're not saying we can't get the layout, God bless you.
Bless you. And I'm not sure
Well,
that
we don't meet the requirements for a two-family. We simply, there's not enough mathematical floor area to
Right.
accommodate,
So
to
you're
meet the minimum
asking for
dwelling
a
unit
floor
size.
area. And I
To
don't
minimize the
know.
dwelling unit size
I
issue.
may be able to be convinced that there's a hardship with the yards and getting yourself a marketable one-family.
Well, that's good news.
But I don't know if I could be convinced that you have a hardship because you can't have a two-family.
And I can
That to
understand-
me is like an extra grab. Like,
I
let me have
can
whatever
understand
get.
your issue with getting over with that issue, and it's a logical point for you to come to, because it's a logical point. But the fact of the matter is, the reason why we're presenting it and asking for it so much is because of what I just expressed, which is, yes, is it possible to build a single-family home here of 1,500 square feet? It is. It's physically possible. The problem we've got is between the land values and what people are looking for. Maybe we could support it more with information from a real estate broker, because that's where Mr. Savino, who's a Whitestone resident, has been working with, and he's been doing calculations. The reason we're here is he's been trying to develop the property in a way that'll be economically feasible. And the brokers are all telling him, you build a 1,500 square foot home, good luck selling it. You've cornered yourself down to the smallest amount of the marketplace. Because when people come into Whitestone, they are not looking. If they're looking for a 1,500 square foot unit, they're going to go to Flushing. that's where people go, into the more of a dense area. But when you start getting into these neighborhoods, they're
I'm
looking for
finding
more.
that
But I understand your
And
issue.
you've got 1,500 square foot homes in this neighborhood, throughout this neighborhood, on the smaller lots. So I'm not convinced.
Well,
Well, and in addition to which, sorry.
Go on. No, don't be sorry at all.
The proposed is, as a two-family, is only 17, or let's say 1,800 square feet. So now you're dividing it into two dwellings.
Right.
So they're 900 square feet.
Yes.
So then I don't understand, if there's no market for 1,500, why is there a market for 900?
here's why. I could explain that to you very easily. Because now you're in the spectrum of the market where there's a strong demand. There's a strong demand for people looking for affordable housing, which this will end up not under the current nomenclature of affordable as we use it under the current programs. But it creates a dwelling that's obviously it's going to be a rental, and it creates at a price point, I shouldn't use the word affordable, but at a price point that is in the middle of the marketplace, which is what people are looking for. So when people, it's not too big, they're not paying a lot of money for it, but they're getting a reasonable two-bedroom unit in each apartment. And there's a demand for that. That's what people are looking for. That's what the young family that's just had a baby is looking for. They're looking for a small place in the neighborhood that won't break the bank. And that's what this creates for them. It's a starter place,
But
essentially.
this is completely market-driven argument for a variance, right? Which it can't be, right? And so, because what you can build as of right, and the choice to lay it out this way, where you have the living room and the dining room in the front and a bedroom in the back, maybe you wouldn't actually lay it out like that. You might just have it be a two-bedroom or a three-bedroom house. Let's say a two-bedroom house, right? So that's more like an affectation of how you choose to lay it out. But a 1,500 square foot house/apartment, effectively, with land around it, is very desirable. And if it's more affordable to the community as opposed to affordable with a A, right? Then that's a good thing. That's a marketplace thing to say that we need to appeal to whatever it is, upscale purchasers or something like that, isn't a finding for a variance. The whole point of a variance is
Of course.
that you're burdened such that you can't use it, right? And if we talk about it for a single-family house, then the finding is completely that you're burdened so that a family wouldn't be able to use this structure, right? But we see, as you know, every week, those little 73-622s where they start off sometimes with 1,000 square feet, and they're like, if they're lucky, they get another 600 square feet out of it, right? And on those small lots, right? And this site
The
has
difference,
the
though,
advantage of
it
being a
does.
zero lot line site.
It does have that advantage. The difference being, though, those are existing homes, usually with homeowners that have been in the homes for years. This is ground-up construction on a property that was purchased in the marketplace recently. The economics are quite different between the two. And we can give you more information. Some of it is shown in this other one that we gave you, this corner lot information handout, which we just passed up. And if you look through that studied all of the corner lots, but it also shows you within there the floor area. And of course, there are a couple of, if you look at it, the very top two show you corner properties with 25-foot wide lot. And forgetting about the yards for a second, I'm not going to go into the yards, let's keep it at the floor area discussion. It shows you there what the floor areas of those are 1,800 square feet. Now, of course, if you go down to the next one, it's 1,300 square feet. Oh, I'm sorry, do you not have
Looking at
this?
the chart.
Oh, it's a chart, and what does it go with?
It's,
Which map?
it doesn't go with the map.
Oh, okay.
It goes with a glass of red and maybe a glass of white, but that's a joke. It's a pairing joke. It's, which white wine already causes melanoma, or could.
So there are some houses that are smaller.
There are, and I was gonna call that out. There certainly are some. And if I delve deeper on those houses, I'm willing to bet they're older houses. They were constructed years ago when demands for homes were quite different, and people's expectations and the use of homes were quite different.
And what is
But
this was the question I asked, what's the radius that these are taken?
this is within 400 feet. He expanded, this chart was created last night to go within 400 feet. But what it's also showing you, though, is that the first two are corner properties, 2,500 square feet, with floor area, exactly what we're asking for. With yards, identical, not identical, actually, in these cases, the yards are smaller than what we're asking for. But what I'm trying to set forth is that what we're asking for is not really so out of the norm of what's going on around us.
Right, but that's.
But are they 1 and 2 families?
I don't know if those are 1 and 2 families. I would have to go back and correlate that. I
Sorry.
did not,
No.
those haven't, lot 32, yeah, hold on, I'm looking, yeah, so lot 4637,
Lot 32
no, I can't tell so quickly, it's hard, 46,
46 is a 1 family. 4637 lot 1.
4633.
So the first one is one
Lot 32.
Family.
Second one is two family. third
So one's a
is two
1 family and one's a 2 family, is that what it is?
Yeah, the first one is
The
one
next one is
family,
a
second one is two
two-family.
family.
Yeah, so that's all I'm trying to set forth, is that I get that we have to come back and prove to you the rationale behind the request, but I'm certainly just trying to set forth the idea that what we are asking for is certainly not an excessive variance, certainly not out of character with what's going on around us. Yes, you could look at all the data, and it could cut both ways, but I think the fact that it cuts both ways supports our argument that what we're asking for is not outlandish. Yeah, sure, some of the homes aren't quite as big, but half are as big, and half have the yards, most have the yards that we have, the yards themselves. I think it's pretty much apparent that most of the properties in the area have yards that are similar to ours. And as a matter of fact, we created one more document for you while we're on the topic of yards, and we'll come back, I think, unless you're okay with yards.
It's not, I have to say, it's not really about the yards, whether the yards, it's the A finding, it's the beginning. It's like, what's unique about this site?
Oh, the A
That-
finding,
Because we have established that there are tons of lots that are the same, with houses that are 15
no, that's
feet
not true. We have
wide.
not established that at all. It's actually quite the contrary. We've established that the only houses that are 15 feet are the homes that are on 15-foot wide lots, and that there's not a single 25-foot wide lot within 400 feet that's got a 15-foot wide house, nor are there any other
But one could
corner
argue that
properties.
then your property's better situated, because you
Right.
have more green space.
Yeah, those
You have
kind
more
of-
open space on that lot
No,
than
the
those
green space is not,
15s.
obviously, nobody's
in a-
nobody's eating dinner in a green
Yes,
space
but in a
where,
neighborhood where
Yeah, they
private
are,
homes
actually.
are,
On the
you
front
know,
yard.
are the predominant thing is private, single, and two-family homes, green space is a big factor.
and there is ample wide open space on this property. There's a tremendous side yard, and we're still providing a front yard. But if the yards are the discussion, we did prepare this map entitled Front Yards Diagram.
So, but,
And it shows you that there are quite a few homes that have yards of our width. We're going back to the uniqueness that Madam Chair
let's
raised.
stay with the uniqueness.
Stay with
You gotta
uniqueness
get
for a
there.
second. There are no vacant corner lots in the area. This is the sole remaining undeveloped corner lot. Its location at a corner imposes 2 front yard requirements that, on their own, are much more stringent individually than a combined side yard requirement would be on an interior lot.
Correct.
And the result of that is a 15-foot wide home, which the board is filled with reasonable people here. I'm sure if everybody talks to everybody, hey, 15 feet or 17, what's more comfortable for you? 17 is clearly more comfortable. It's not about being greedy for the space. It's just about trying to create a home that's really usable.
It's not a question of what's more comfortable. You have to talk about your yard requirement, and yes, you're the only vacant lot. Now show us what happens when you have to provide the required yards, and show us in a reasonable as-of-right floor plan.
Yes, I saw that comment yesterday.
Okay?
I saw that comment.
Then, if we are reasonable people, and I know we are, we will look at it, and with any luck, you will have proven your point that that is not a feasible layout.
That we could do,
And-
because the width isn't going to change. And no matter what, you're still going to sleep in a king or queen size bed or a full size bed, and you're going to have nightstands, you're going to have twins, or you're going to have a guest room, or you're going to have, and no matter
Sketch
what you're
out
going to
the
have, you're going to have a
furniture,
dinner.
if
We'll
you
sketch it
need
out with
to.
furniture. It'll be very easy to show that when you put a table and you fill up the space, it'll be hard, and we could show you that.
Right,
That
but
I
a
think we're
center
comfortable.
hall layout, oftentimes when you see these narrow lots that are 25-foot wide, I don't see many with center hall layouts. I see often, with center halls, oftentimes you have the entry on one end of your narrow end, and then everything is kind of railroad-like going all the way back.
Right.
So you're going to get a better layout like that. So that's really, you're going to have to convince us that using
We'll,
that
we'll
kind of
give you
layout-
a layout with that, of the single family, with a different
And put
design
the
than what
room
we've presented to you
dimensions
already.
in
With,
and
we'll show you the furniture layout, and that we can provide to you. And I can understand what your concerns are with the floor area. The floor area and the dwelling unit is like you had said at the beginning, Commissioner, the add-on, so to speak. But it's really being done with this larger philosophy, like I said, that we're stuck in the middle between a two-family and a single-family, one being a little too small, the other being a little too big. So that's why we came and asked for the relief on that. I would like to supplement the record more and give you back more information on both of those points.
So could you supplement the record with some kind of a chart that shows the range in square footage of one-family homes and then the range in square footage of two-family homes?
Yes.
Because that may be able to prove your point.
But so the other thing that I wanted to say is when you're talking about why your existing your permitted 15-foot wide house doesn't work out, is because you have only so much width for a living room so that when grandma comes over, she has nowhere to sit, right? So then, what's the floor plan for the proposed? A 12-foot 10 living room with a staircase that dumps into the living room, so really there is no place for grandma to sit. So
Right,
that-
but it creates, the staircase has to go somewhere, but it creates the bedroom space upstairs that does allow for two nightstands to go on either side of the bed. Or
Well-
maybe a child's room to have a desk in it next to
But
the
if there's
bed.
nowhere for the child to sit in the living room and you've combined the
Listen, we're not
kitchen
here,
and the living
well, we
room-
could ask you, to that point, I could ask you for a larger variance on the width. We're not trying, we're trying to show.
No. Wait a second, that's not
I didn't
actually-
think that was the
what-
direction you were
no,
taking me
what
to.
what you're showing is you can make do with a living room, and I know you can because it's very common that you have living rooms of a dimension with 12 feet, right? So you can make do with a living room that's only 12 foot 10 inches wide. Therefore, you can make do with a house that's 15 feet wide because it yields you a living
I don't
room
think
that's 12
that's,
feet wide.
I don't know if that's necessarily the conclusion. I mean, a home
Well-
has to have a staircase in it. You have to have a staircase,
But,
so
you know, but when
stairs
you're-
take up space, so.
But when you're providing for a two-family house, you have a different kind of circulation system than when you're providing for a one-family house.
No, you still have the one set of stairs, though. There's still one
No, because you have a
staircase,
separate entrance.
but it's still one set of stairs.
It's one set of stairs, but it's within the unit. This staircase is not in the unit, therefore it's not even
But
part
it's
of
the same, it's taking it, the point I'm
No,
trying to
but
say
it-
is the staircase has to take up space somewhere in the building. I
It
mean, there's
does,
no,
but if you look at
there's
your-
nowhere, it's either gonna go into through a kitchen, it's gonna go through a living room, it's gonna go through a foyer, it's gonna go through a dining room.
Your
It's gotta
as
go
of-
through one of those
Your
rooms.
as of right layout is actually much more generous from a room-to-room perspective. There's plenty of room for grandma, not to mention a couple of cousins in there. Not to mention the fact that there's this amazing foyer for trick-or-treating. I mean, if we're talking about what you do in these places,
I don't know if
right?
amazing necessarily, I mean, 15
No, but
foot,
it
a
is.
15,
But
listen,
in other words, this layout is much more generous in the single-family house that is the as of right than the individual individual apartment units. So if you're arguing that it's hard to live in a small place, then I'm not getting why it's okay if you live in an apartment in the same neighborhood, exactly the same neighborhood, to live in
It won't-
a place that's smaller.
it wouldn't be, as far as the width goes.
Well, what's the width? I
That's,
mean, the
the
dimensions.
width is wider in the proposed, the width is 2 feet wider.
Now,
it's
so,
24
if
inches
you were to
wider.
furnish these spaces, and,
Yeah.
you know, the foyer is very, very generous in your as-of-right, so you probably wouldn't even have the foyer like that? Sorry?
The 5 minutes?
Okay, yes. Oh, right, yeah, I'm sorry. Commissioner Otley Brown has to step out for a second, but I think we can continue, right? It's okay?
Yeah.
We'll continue the discussion and she'll come back, yeah.
No, and I understood her points, and I understand the chair's points. We'd like to come back to you, we'll give you some more information.
Okay, so I think, you know,
I just want to add to that, that this particular building form, 15 by 60, it's a very typical, like a footprint in many of these sites here, which is, you know, has a 25-foot lot. And in that, the units that are laid out, and they are on the market today. I mean, these are lived in very much, and they're very well taken care of, and there
The
is
board
not a single
He
vacant.
keeps saying it's normal, but where is it? We gave you hundreds of homes within 400 feet.
but.
The only one that's 15 foot wide is homes that were built in the 1950s before
But
TV was
there's-
even in full mainstream. And those homes are on 15 foot wide lots. They're built lot line to lot line.
Well,
Here, I'm coming in with a home that's got 3 front yards, a 20-foot front yard on one side. It's got I think a 30-foot yard on the other side. I have to double check the dimensions. And it's got we're asking you for a 7-foot yard, which is much larger than the 2 other 25-foot wide lots that I just gave you that are already existing. So
I think I'm having difficulty in trying to combining the two elements, and that goes back to what.
I think that's what I'm hearing from the
That's
board.
really
So,
what-
and I hear you.
I think
I'm
if this was,
understanding it.
if this were a single-family home and you were asking for some allowance to allow for a much more livable
I
space.
think that's what I'm
I
hearing,
think
yeah.
that is a different argument than saying you're trying to fit in 2 small units, which I'm gathering are both going to be rental units, so these are speculative
yeah.
units, just to allow for 2 rentable units that are going to be much smaller, and to allow for much more give is what I'm having
And
difficulty.
I heard that. I think Commissioner Brown said that, and I think that the chair was alluding to that in some of her comments as well. Like I said, I think I got the message from you. I don't think you
So-
have to spend too much more time on it.
Okay, I want to add another
Go on.
piece to the
Uh-oh.
message.
Uh-oh.
So I know sometimes we often talk about the 400-foot radius condition, but, you know, as you know very well, that decisions made by the board are used by future applicants, you included, as an argument for precedent that was made.
And I've seen it used by
right?
the chair against the applications.
Yes, sometimes can be done like that, right? But for example, so now what you're saying is a 25 by 100 corner lot is uniquely situated. So that means where most of the time the lots are 25 by 100, most. I mean, we don't see that many lots that come here for any kind of
There's-
waivers that aren't 25 by 100.
There's a strong history at the Board of Standards and Appeals of corner lots with restrictive front yard requirements coming to the board.
Corner lots
on-
that are
on-
not 25 feet wide.
I've seen corner lots that are wider.
Okay, so.
I've
well-
seen many that are wider.
Not
and
barring today's example.
Yeah. That's a common.
Not
bar-
counting today.
Not counting, no, that's, listen, the corner property, for example, in an R5 district, if you type R5 into your website, R5 front yard variances, I'm sure you'll pull up quite a few. In my 20 years of practicing, I've seen a bunch. So I understand what the board is saying. Let us go back, and my client is here, he's listening to everything that's going on. Let us see what we can put together to address your concerns
Okay,
and
so I would
amend.
say that if there are other cases where the board has figured out somehow or other that 25 by 100 lots are uniquely situated, I'd like to hear
Yeah, we'll bring
how
those.
come. Because I'm not concerned so much about what we see in 400 feet. I'm concerned with the entire rest of the city, where a 25 by 100 lot is the standard size.
Right.
And then to take it one step further, if we talk about the 8-foot side yard total in some districts, right? And in some other districts, the 13-foot side yard total, right? what size lots are they? In one case, 23, and in another case, what would it be? 13, 20, please do the math.
What math are you doing?
13 plus 15, 19, 28 square foot, 28 foot wide lots that would also have the same constraints of the 15 foot. 28 foot wide is a pretty wide lot in a lot of these districts, right? So if you're a 25 foot wide lot.
Again,
in a
though,
district where
the
there's a-
interior corner the interior lots in most of these districts allow for them to be semi-detached homes.
No, but not in all, so that's the thing.
Yeah, but you start going into other neighborhoods, of course, you take me into the West Village of New York, of Manhattan,
Well, no, I'm
and the
staying-
norm is for a 600 square foot
staying
apartment. You take
firmly-
me to 425 Park Avenue, and the norm is a 10,000 square foot apartment. Of course, if you want to go around and use the entire city of New York as a sampling ground, yes, of course, you're going to find probably tons of neighborhoods where that's the
So then,
case.
all right, to make it easier, and you will stay with the R3As and whatever the.
Yeah, but the R3A, that's the point, though, is that the R3A specifically says if you're an interior lot, you only need to be 8 feet.
Okay,
And it says if you're a corner property, you're burdened by A, having to match up on one side with the property owner on
Right.
one side, which we are, we're
So-
fully complying, and on the other side, you have to
So a
provide.
23-foot wide R3A lot would be burdened in exactly the same way if it was an interior lot. It would be.
No, it wouldn't
Because that
be.
house can only be built to 15 feet wide.
No, not true.
Why?
An R3A lot, 8 feet.
No,
That's what I
8 feet
said.
would be the side yard to the
A
front yard.
23-foot wide lot, but there is no
Yeah.
23-foot wide lots. We sampled the whole area.
No, that's
This
the
is,
four,
we were
no,
just.
no, no, that's, you're staying within the 400 feet. I'm concerned about everybody
I
with
don't know
a
if that's so
23
fair,
foot
Madam
wide
Chair. You've
lot.
been asking us over and over to provide you with statistical data, and when I provide statistical data that supports the application, now you're telling me to change the rules and go further. And if I came into you the other way, arguing that if you went beyond the 400 feet and you find houses to support my application, you would shun me and tell me that I'm going beyond the affected radius and it has nothing to do with it. I don't know if that's entirely fair. We'll amend the application
I
as
don't
you
know
ask,
that-
if
I
you give
don't
us some
know that
adjourned
that's
dates.
exactly how
I
the board
do, that is.
analyzes
You're
it.
asking me, and I hate to bicker with the board, it's not my style.
don't.
But, Madam Chair, I mean, you are asking me
Yes.
now.
I
if-
think they're not, I don't actually think she's asking you to go beyond the 400, because
No.
she said you're
I was just asked
concerned
to go.
about.
Yes.
You're concerned about the implications for other R3As in the city.
But we're not here on other R3As,
Yeah.
I'm here on this property in
No,
this
no, but
district.
someone will use exactly
But then that's
those
their
same-
entitlement, and if I...
No, it's not, that's the entire point. It's not an entitlement.
No.
The entire point is
It's
that
not.
you have to have a uniquely burdened site that's pretty much unique. It doesn't have to be
It doesn't have to be
the
unique in the
only one.
entire city of New
No,
York.
it has to be
No,
pretty
no.
much unique, and so that we don't have
But I gave you maps showing you the whole affected
23-foot
radius.
wide lots coming and saying, look, you've established that a 15-foot wide house is not a livable house.
So then, is this the standard then on all of my applications? Will the board be accepting on all my applications a study of an expanded district to also support my applications?
Can
No,
I
no,
So
I
that-
don't think
Can I
that's,
just,
yeah, let's, yeah,
just want to
Commissioner
add
Otley
to
Brown.
it that oftentimes when we have seen these narrow lots where the yards are constricting the footprint, I have to say that the footprint, the building width is somewhere around 11 feet and
Yes.
12 feet. We don't see building widths of 15 feet that often, and as a case of hardship. So I think that the chair has a really valid point, is that if we start saying 15 feet is constricted, you are opening up the universe to God knows how many homes. that are
Yeah,
15
that's
feet
the-
wide.
that's
And
I
that's a
think
problem.
that,
That's the
I would
concern.
like for the data, I will gather data for you. What I would like to do is, I don't want to go into other R3A districts. I don't think it's fair to the applicant to force him to do that. But what I think I can do, that I think will contradict, because I know I've had cases that was approved when Vice Chair Hinkson was on the board, as well as Commissioner Otley Brown, a number of them, special permanent home enlargements, combination corner lot, special permanent home enlargements, where exactly this situation occurred, and the board found it 100% reasonable. So I
I don't
can...
think that you can compare a special permit home
No,
enlargement
they were
to a
combination
variance.
cases. They were combination cases.
Well,
They were,
to that point,
they were
we have
variances
one.
and special permits that the board has granted in the past. I've represented one of the owners that I know of, where we had that exact situation. And I've also come in with another one that was on a corner property. I think the lot was 30 feet wide, where we had this exact same problem, that it didn't qualify for the special permit. It came in as a variance instead, because the special permit only allows, and again, the findings were made. I'm not suggesting that you set a precedent here that's going to run rampant all around New York City, because I really don't think there are too many vacant corner properties on 25-foot wide lots with restrictive yard requirements. But we'd like to, I'll give you that information so that your board can make the decision. And as I said, I've heard your commentary, and I think I'm understanding what is certainly not pleasing the board, and we can amend the plans so that we could eliminate the items that we know for sure the board is not happy with. And I think we can come back to you, hopefully we can come back to you.
So you should know that there's, I don't know what the status of that application is, but there is an application before us right now. That's a combined application of a special permit and a variance, where the discussion is about the utility of the 15-foot wide addition. And you should be listening to the, yeah.
Well, if it's an addition to a home, to an existing home, I assume, it's an addition to an existing home. It is what it is. The home is there. And the special permit home enlargement, of course, only allows for straight line enlargement. So whatever, that home, I'm sure whatever home we're talking about is much differently constrained than a vacant,
Yeah, it's
harsh
differently constrained,
lot.
but was a lot of discussion about the utility of the 15-foot width to have a viable, whatever it was, dining room or something like that. So.
Right, but here we're asking for it's the entire home. This is not just one room. I know we keep focusing on a dining room table, but we're focusing on dining rooms, we're talking about bedrooms, talking about the ability for the entire house. I mean, we're not just talking about adding a blip at the back of a house, and I could understand that. Listen, if I came to United House and I wanted to put a den in the back of it, sure, a 15-foot wide den, maybe that would be good, but for every single room, a queen-size bed, I'll get you the dimensions on what a queen-size bed is. We have a queen-size bed in my house. I think it's about 8 feet wide.
No, it's not. It's
7 feet,
Well,
7
that's
feet
not
wide.
even a king size.
A king, excuse me, a king.
No,
A
there's-
king.
King is 70 by 80.
or
70,
Yeah.
I have to go mattress shopping tonight, as a matter of fact. so
That's
we'll
like
be looking at that.
a super king.
We'll do a super king. I didn't know they made that. We'll put,
It's called the California.
it's called the California. I'm getting educated here. I'm not going to ask how big Commissioner Chanda's bedroom is.
It's not.
We will, we'll take everything you said back and we'll work on it. Hopefully we can come back with some stuff that satisfies the board.
Okay. See what we can do. All right, so, let's see if there were any other,
60 by 80.
60 by 80, see? That's 80 is the length, cannot read that.
That's the
That's a queen.
That's a
60 is
Queen.
a queen.
76
Yes,
by
70 is
All right, so queen is king is 76.
72.
All right, and then you put 2 nightstands on either side, so you can put your book down after you're reading the zoning resolution. They're probably about another 15 inches.
There are no
So now I'm at 100
nightstands large
inches.
enough for the
What's 100 divided by
They're
12?
reading it on their
I mean, you
laptop.
start getting into narrowness.
This is the land of don't you read this, on your little phone now?
Actually,
Nobody reads.
I just started going back to reading books, actually. I'm actually enjoying real books. Wait.
Okay,
We understand the board's issues, and we'll
Okay.
do our best.
all right, so, are there any speakers on this? There's a speaker. And I want to point out also, there was community board opposition to this.
Please state your name for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Joseph Alessandro. I'm the next door neighbor in a 2-family house right next door on 147th Street.
Sorry.
Just to start, I did live in a 15-foot home for 20 years on 22nd Avenue with 13-foot wide rooms.
I don't know how to stop it. I'm sorry. No, I can't. I can't stop it. I'm sorry. It's broken. The thing that takes it off is broken. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. Start again.
I did live in a 15-foot house on 22nd Avenue between 147th and 149th for 20 years with wife and 2 kids, and we lived quite comfortably. So that's the start. I have a letter here from Councilman Valone. I think you had received it, opposing the variance. I also had a meeting with Senator Avella, and he did he stood behind me with it as well, so I don't know what the flip-flop was.
So, say again, you met with him and
I
he
met
said
with
what?
Senator Avella as well 2 weeks ago, and he was behind me as opposing this variance. I don't have a problem with the house being built next door. I know it's 0 lot line, it'll be right on my lot line, I don't have a problem with the house being built. Just build it to code, to what the current code is. If he uses a front yard of 8 feet on 147th Street, he's still infringing on my front yard. My front yard is 15 feet deep on 147th Street. The row houses may be 8 feet deep, mine is 15 feet deep, so my sight line's being disturbed. And like I said, that's the only thing that I have to say. I have no opposition to the building of the house, as long as it's within the current code.
Okay, so your house is the one on the...
The two-family on
facing-
147th Street.
Okay, yeah, okay.
That's his house next door to you?
And your front yard is currently
15 feet.
15.
Looks like he's lining up.
So the proposal actually is 19 feet for the 147th Street front yard.
I thought he was talking about 8 feet on 147th.
It's on the
Okay.
long side, on 22nd, the proposal is a 7-foot front yard. But on the 147th Street side, the proposal is 19-foot 3, I think, or 5, it's hard to see.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that measurement.
Okay, so you should know.
And like I said, I don't have an opposition to building, but just build within the current coding, that's what's
Okay.
current. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other speakers on this?
Hi, Eric Palatnik. As far as State Senator Avella's comments to each of us, I can't explain or rectify that. Wish I could. But just to speak to the gentleman's comments, as the board rightfully noted, his front yard is in fact 19 feet, and we are actually matching up with the 19 feet, which, as the board knows, God bless you,
Thank you.
quite a large front yard, in fact, much larger than is typically required under zoning, so it's quite a generous amount of open space there. And the other telling point of what he just spoke about, and of course, nothing personal, but he did bring up the subject, he used to live in a 15-foot wide home. Used to. Used to. And I'll leave it at that. His home now is 29 feet wide. So I'm sure he was comfortable in the 15-foot wide home, but I bet if he was asked if he's more comfortable in the 29-foot wide home, the answer would probably be yup. And that's all we're suggesting. And we're not suggesting anything more. We're not screwing up the neighborhood. We're not screwing up his sight lines. We're matching up to every other corner property. We will substantially tweak the application, and I will provide you with some more information to give you some justification to show you that I'm not the first knucklehead to walk in here and ask on a corner property with strict yard requirements to get some relief. I'm not asking for the moon. I'm asking for a couple of feet.
Huh? Sorry?
Couple of
Okay.
feet. That's all we're asking for.
No, I-
So we're.
But understand that it's not about the couple of feet and that's all you're asking for. It's the A finding.
But some
We
other
need
guy's
to
got, or a
make
woman's
it-
got to make the findings after me too. They all stand on their own. Everything stands on its own.
You know that you don't
I
stand.
know.
You try to
Listen,
use everybody else to help stand up.
and you
your
tell
own
me when I'm
right.
wrong, clearly. You always say, you can't count on that. So you're a pretty good guardian of, Jay Siegel's not just going to walk in here tomorrow, picking out a friend of mine, and say that you gave it to Palatnik, give it to me, and you're going to say, okay. He's going to have to prove it just like I am. And Jay's a good guy. I'm not saying his name for anything other than to use a person I enjoy as an example. His first name that came into mind. I could have picked any of them. Thank you. Thanks for the time. And we appreciate the heartfelt discussion.
Right, okay, so, I no longer have
Madam Chair, he wants to say something else, is Kenny or?
it. Well, actually, we've heard, if you have something else that you want to say, you
No,
can.
just in regard to his comment.
Okay, no, that's okay. It doesn't matter where you live now or wherever. Okay? Okay. So, I don't know how much time you need, but,
At the
February
beginning of
14th.
February would be a good time for us to submit, because we do have a little bit of research to do.
Okay, so beginning of February to submit would put you on a 28th hearing.
That's great.
So that would be, February 8th.
February 8th and February 28th. Great. Thank you very much. Have a good
Thank
afternoon.
you.
Item number 2, 2016-4209 BZ, 227 4th Avenue, Brooklyn.
This one. Okay, great.
I'll email it.
Great, thanks.
Good afternoon, Todd Dale for the applicant. From review session, I know there were a few questions that were raised. First, regarding the community board, we had appeared June 23rd at the land use committee meeting. We're told we didn't need to appear at the full board meeting. Community Board 6 of Brooklyn's in recess over the summer. I'd spoken to Craig Hammerman, the district manager, and he said that they had an executive session, and that they voted on it at that point. I don't know if it's since been transmitted to the board or...
Yeah, so Jella Prenga actually called them and they told us that they approved, so they'll send us a copy of the resolution.
Great. There was a question that was raised regarding the landmark plans. Just wanted to clarify that it is vinyl sign. We submitted the January original landmarks plans, but there's also an April change. And if you look at sheet, I think it's 603.1, it notes that, 603.01, it does note a change to vinyl and not neon. So that's what's proposed, so it's consistent. So
in other words, the LPC drawings show what's proposed.
correct, yeah, the April version, not the January version. I don't know if there were any other-
April, what is,
April
2016?
19th, 2016.
Okay,
The approved plans reflect that.
okay. All right, any other comments about this? Any speakers? No speakers? Okay, so then I'd like to make a motion to close.
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye?
Vice Chair Hinkson?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Chanda?
Aye.
And a motion to grant.
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Chanda?
Aye.
Thank you. For once, I'm not last.
Oh, we should.
Item number 3, 2016-4210 BZ, 19 Robinson Avenue, Staten Island.
Good afternoon, Stephen Simisich for the applicant. I attended review session yesterday regarding this variance application in which we are attempting to build a single-family home on a block with all single-family homes in Staten Island. And I believe that the biggest comment that was raised was in regards to the December 8, 2005 activation date here, I'm calling it. I couldn't figure out the right term. Trigger date, activation date. So basically, all this date entails is that the text amendment had taken place in 2005, and I brought in the CPC report, and I have copies of it, a couple of pages that could be submitted to the record to be shown, that the only aspect of the text that was altered, just affecting this buildability of this lot, if that's a word, buildability, is whether or not it's the September 11th, 75 date, or now, which became the December 8, 2005 date. That was the trigger date.
Sorry, what was the first trigger date? The old one?
September 11th, 1975, which is when the South Richmond Development District was created. So I can, hand in.
Could you just read the text from that one with 75?
It just says, the whole text in the
The
video?
old text.
Okay.
You have a copy? Give it.
I have a copy, which you can just
Yeah.
take, and you'll see that the only thing that changed is just the date. Everything else, as far as this property is concerned, remains the same in
Okay,
its
so
effect.
if that's what changed, then we have a problem. So it was owned separately and individually from all other adjoining tracts of land, both on September 11th, 1975, and on the date of application for a permit. That's what I've been wondering about. So, the current owner purchased the property in 1987. So let's just say the permit application was in 1988. The property was no longer owned separately and individually on both September 11th, 1975 and on the date of application for a permit. There was no point subsequent to purchase subsequent to purchase when it was subdivided, basically.
Well, no, the owner purchased it in 1987.
Correct.
And at that time, what the trigger date was at September 11th, 75, which meant that it was buildable. It's when it got changed.
You're not reading the text. The text said, was owned separately and individually from all other adjoining tracts of land, both on September 11th, 1975, that was both, and on the date of application for a building permit. So, in 1988, when they applied to build a building on the site, they didn't meet those two criteria because it was no longer owned separately and individually. There's no point at which you could have built on this lot once they subdivided.
But what happened was from 79 to 05 date, which is now, it's been changed, December 8, 2005 date, it could have been redeveloped. It was owned separately and individually on September 11, 1974. They bought it in 87. The whole point is that in 1974, the property was not owned by the adjoining lot, by my client who owns the property now.
So,
What ends up, that's why I was bringing up the two prior cases. In those cases, it was the whole zoning that changed. Here, it's just that text. It's just that one date, which is altered.
no, I don't understand. Let's go back to the ownership history, because actually now I can't.
Who owned the lot back in 75?
In-
The
Two lots.
Two lots. Who owned the two lots?
In 1982, the subject site and the adjacent site, Lot 64, was owned in conjunction by an Olav Bondvet, which was, I
Right.
can't pronounce it properly. And that was entered into the record. So that was in 82 that it was purchased. So it wasn't owned separate and single in 75.
Okay.
But then in 1987, the current owner, James DeFranco, who's still the owner to this day, purchased the property. So when he purchased it in 87, it was, at that point,
Owned conjoint.
He owned both lots, though. He
He owned
purchased
both
both
lots.
lots in 87.
Yes.
So now they're co-joined once more.
So, yeah, our understanding, unless we've got a little bit confused about the sequence of things, is the lot was subdivided in 1987.
it seems that I need to, enter into the record a timeline detailing
Yes.
a better account of exactly the transactions that took place regarding two lots.
Yes,
Because that seems to be the gist of this right now.
yes.
And you need to go all the way back to 75, I guess it is.
Yeah, and part of the point is that the question is the hardship self-created, right? So the question was, up until the zoning text change in 2005, could the lot have been developed as of right, as an individual lot, pursuant to that old section? Where it was owned separately and individually from all other adjoining tracts of land? I don't see how the answer is yes. Both on September 11th, 1975, and on the date of permit. I don't see how, if in 1983, whatever happened,
In
I don't
87.
see how you get, yes, it was separate in 75, and yes, it was separate in 1987 or 88, or
Right.
whichever day you filed for a permit.
It's a
I
yes
don't
and
see
no.
that.
Yeah.
So then, the question is, how is that not a self-created hardship? Then how do we make the rest of the findings?
I see what you're saying, but it's a matter of fleshing out with a specific timeline, which will show.
Yes. Because the way I'm seeing it, there was no point in its life that it could have been developed as of right,
Yeah. That's what I
which
thought.
was a bad deal made by the purchaser, but sometimes people make bad deals.
But it was under this similar situation that two other cases had been shown to, the zoning change is what ended up
No,
causing
the
it to be
case that you
unbuildable.
cited, so
There's
you
two
have
of
to be
them.
clear, the 2015 case that you cited indicated that the zoning text had changed in 2008, rendering the previously conforming lot size too small. That's different. So that site had been subdivided and all that stuff, but at the time of the subdivision, the two separate lots, or the lot in question anyway, was a buildable lot according to the zoning. And then in 2008, the zoning changed, rendering the lot size too small to build on.
But see, the way I'm looking at it is in 82 is when Olav Bondvet had purchased that one and the adjacent.
They bought them together.
Yes.
Okay.
And then it was sold in conjunction in 1987.
Sold separately.
It was sold to the current
Sold
owner.
separately. The current owner only bought one of the lots. He didn't buy two. Or he bought both of them. At some point it was subdivided, right? When was it subdivided? It doesn't, but the thing
I thought-
is, whenever it was subdivided
I
subsequent
thought,
to
I don't think
75.
there's a question of subdivision. I think there are two
Well,
tax lots.
Two tax lots.
But you have to own it separately.
But I think this is the part,
Together.
and this is the part I know I'm struggling with, is there are two tax lots, and they were two separate zoning lots, because they were under two different ownerships. And at one point, one of the subject site, there was a building, I'm just going through the history just so I understand it. One of the building, the subject site had a house which got burned down, and it was lying vacant. So the owner to the left bought the property, the subject property, and when it went to the buildings department for CFO, it treated each one of these lots as two separate zoning lots.
Yeah, Commissioner Chand is explaining a lot more clearer than me, because the fact is, they had always
That's
been
because
maintained.
it's helping your case, but.
Yes, thank you. They had always been maintained as individual separate
But,
lots
sorry,
through their
that's not what the
existence.
That's not
text
the
is
text.
about. With all due respect to everybody, the text isn't about zoning lots. The owner purchased the property, and the lot was no longer held separately and individually. That's the language, right? From all other tracts of land, it's not even about, it says upon a zoning lot consisting entirely of a tract of land that was owned separately and individually from all other adjoining tracts of land.
That's just the zoning line.
But that's,
Exactly.
Right, but I think the whole argument behind it is that it was always a narrow lot. It
Yes.
was never a situation where it could possibly be combined, and then that owner then decided to deal off half of it and now say, or the owner right after, hardship, hardship. I
Right.
think that's what it's guarding against.
Yes,
Sure.
it wants to give you relief for these substandard lots
Right.
that have existed since time.
Right,
began.
and are still
Right.
substandard.
and I think, I think I'm coming around it in a different way, is that this lot was never subdivided in any way to make it substandard. It was always that.
It's always been separate from the other
But
lots.
the
from its ex-
language
That's
is
not the
owned
question.
separately and individually. That's the
That's not the-
ownership
that's
is
not the
critical. If I own two lots, and by the way, when you look in the photograph, he has like a gazebo or something sitting in
Right.
that lot, right? So it's not that he didn't take advantage of it as the backyard, the playground, and this, right? Now he wants to build a house on it. So that's a different approach, and he might have bought it back then, not caring that it was a substandard lot, because he wanted to put the playground equipment on it. So, people buy lots for all different kinds of reasons, and didn't think that he was going to eventually build a house on it, or nobody told him that by combining the lots, you thwart the ability to build on a substandard lot, which is more likely the case, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem.
I think the addition of the language for the zoning lot language in the special district intended to say, I mean, we could probably look further into this, but that sort of now everything, when we enact this, now everything under single ownership is now considered sort of a zoning lot, like,
Right.
and subject to these
Sort of like an
regulations.
A
Yeah. Yeah,
definition.
yeah, but because it's unusual that they add that language in to the
Mm-hmm.
text, it's oftentimes just sort of the date of enactment, the zoning
Right.
lots that are there, right? And
Yeah.
that's sort of how it works.
Right, so basically, it's pulling the definition of zoning lot, the A definition of zoning lot of a lot of record held in common
And
ownership.
and
That's
the text is the same, I don't have it in front of me, it's the same series of texts for both in the 70s and
Yes,
70s.
exactly the
and then-
same,
oh.
except for the date. It's just in a
Huh.
different order.
No, it might have, I mean, the 2008 one might have just been a
So the only
repeat
other,
what they have.
we have had, not too long ago, I think, another application where the owner had improperly combined the lots and then subdivided the lots. And the question was, could, even as combined lots, the lot have been developed as of right? We asked that question, and that's how we said, well, it sort of didn't matter. They didn't improve their situation any by combining the lot.
These could be
But-
combined.
But I don't know
build a
whether
larger
that's
house.
not really the case here, because you have a house and it was a wider lot, right? So I don't know that that gets you anywhere.
And then it's no longer unique, because there are a lot of 80 by 85 foot
Right.
lots in that
Right.
area.
Yeah, this combination was really teeny. It was like
Yeah.
two 12-foot lots or
Right.
something like that, made
Yeah.
practically not a lot, right? So,
Well,
So-
it seems like then a definite timeline could be submitted to better flesh out the exact dates and what we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in order to then remain on that being a vacant undersized lot here that cannot be developed as of right.
right. And then I just want to read, because I forgot to read Commissioner Montanez's comments from yesterday. Get that to show up, okay. This is something different than the other comments that we had. It appears the first floor level is 8.7 feet above curb elevation of 6.3 feet. This requires at least one mitigation measure pursuant to section 64-61. The renderings do not agree with the proposed plans with respect to the number and location of dormers on the roof. Dormers are not permitted obstructions for R31. Show clearly that they fit within the envelope, and per Appendix G, enclosed areas, this is something we talked about, I think, enclosed areas below the design flood elevation shall be wet flood proofed and used for parking, storage, and building access, not open recreation. Front yard should be measured from the street setback line, which is the widening line, and per Section 1210 of the zoning resolution, a street setback line supersedes the street line in Staten Island, and yard should be measured from that location. So there may also be a need for a front yard waiver, because that wasn't taken into account. So.
Yeah, I did hear that comment yesterday, and we're going to advise the architect to flesh out this open recreation area,
Okay.
and whether or not, I believe it is allowed, but I'm going to check on that. And then the same thing to do with the clarifying the lowest level of the space, which is in the flood zone on the plans. So they need to be better detailed.
Right.
relation
But
to-
then there's another thing about the section, street setback line, the widening line, and where you measure the front yard from, it seems not to be correct. Street setback line is the language and not street line for Staten Island.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so of course, threshold question about whether we can, how do we go forward on this without establishing that it's not self-created hardship? Or something else, or that there's still a hardship in spite of or independent of the merger, the combination, okay, or the subdivision. Okay. There are no speakers. So how much time should we give you for this? Should we put it on for like February 14th, continue?
Continued with 14th, and then when would these submissions be?
That would be January, 25th,
January 25th, and hearing
February 14th.
February 14th.
I'm sorry.
What?
No, I was just mumbling to her.
I'm going to have to figure out what happens with those dates, since I have a baby due February 8th, my
Oh.
wife, so.
Wow, well, we can change it. We
Yeah.
don't have to have you not showing up or not being able to work. We can do another date. What would you
Yeah.
prefer?
But probably best to 14th. Can we stick with it, just in case? I have a feeling that she's going to go early. That's what she keeps telling me. That's her,
It's fine. Yeah, all right. What are we gonna do?
yeah, let's stick with it.
Okay.
All right. Maybe I'll need a break. All right.
This concludes the public hearing for December 6, 2016.
Yeah, I saw that. I talked to Jay on the sidewalk. He was beside himself.
Yeah, he's kind of like tearing his outside. Yeah, because she used to go with her having render.
It just broke it.
He's like a fool.
She won't go in. Now she's in. So I was like, yay, she's in.
She didn't